Hello, everybody, and welcome. I don't know if it's popped yet. So, anyway, yeah, welcome, everybody.
Coffee all over my face. Hello.
I have with me today I believe, the original creator for this particular idea, which is Regina's Tarot and Wirecraft, and I'm going to try to put her website, her channel, into the chat, and I will add it on to. Nope, wrong one. Make playing cards.
Oh,
Whoops. That
it
was
happens.
that was the last thing I copied, apparently. So yeah. Oh, how do I delete that? I can't delete it. I'll just have to find it and put it in there. I'll put it in afterwards, because when people go through the chat and try and click a link, I think they have to be in the moment to do it and not after the fact. I don't know. I'll put it in the description afterwards. But anyway, you can always Google. The channel is called Regina's Tarot and Wirecraft, right? Or do I have that wrong?
You have that 100% correct.
Okay. So, yeah, I will add it in afterwards. Or Gerald's there if he wants to add. He's sort of our backstage help today to keep an eye on things. Oh, he's just done it. Thank you,
Excellent.
Gerald.
Thank you.
So, muddling along as usual. So anyway, I fell in love with this idea. I think you're calling it tarot interviews, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
I am calling it the tarot interviews, where
And,
we reverse engineer the tarot and use the cards to ask questions.
yeah. So yeah, I like this idea because a lot of times when you interview people, unless you're an overachiever like Gerald, maybe you don't plan out a whole list of questions to ask somebody and get to know them. Or I don't know what to ask this particular person. And this is a great way not only to come up with questions, but to sort of develop more of a relationship with your tarot deck, whatever deck you happen to be using, because as you're trying to pull a question out of the images on the card, or open yourself up to questions being thrown at you by the card, I think it deepens or expands how you relate to that card and the kinds of things that you seem to see in it, or maybe something you haven't seen before. So I think it's sort of an extra learning tool about tarot cards, just by thinking about the imagery in a slightly different way.
Yeah, definitely. I think it does deepen our understanding, or it kind of expands things. It opens things up.
And I love that we always look to tarot for answers, but here we're looking for questions, which is a very interesting perspective, I think. So anyway, I might as well get the thing rolling. Now, did you say, sorry, just before we went live, did you say something about an hour, or you need to be?
Like I have about an hour. I could stay a little bit longer if the conversation goes that way. I
We're
left some wiggle room.
4 minutes in, and I'm going to set my hour kitchen timer.
Oh, nice.
So that I don't think you can hear it ticking, but we'll hear the bell go off in an hour, so I'll be reminded it's time to go. So, would you like to have the honor of pulling the first card and coming up with the first question?
Absolutely.
I should also say that I was honored to be a guest on Regina's channel about a week ago, when we did a kind of a part one of this interview, and we enjoyed it so much we wanted to do a part two. And so I don't know if this counts as the part two or not, because it's on my channel instead of hers, but it feels like that. So we're continuing kind of where we left off.
Yeah. So I am using the Wonderland Tarot in a tin, because that's my favorite size deck. And of course, it's based on Alice in Wonderland.
Sorry, got muffled a little there.
Oh, based on the Alice in Wonderland story. All right. So so we have the magician who in this one is actually pulling a rabbit out of a hat.
Mm.
So because the magician, is has the rabbit, I want to ask you about pets. Have you had pets or animals in your life? Now,
Oh, this is a fun
do
question.
what?
I'll give you my history of pets in as quick a sequence as I can. We probably did have goldfish or something first. No, I think my first pet was a cactus. It was a cactus about the size of, first knuckle or whatever of my thumb. And it was in this tiny little, red planter pot. And I had it for like 6 or 8 months and it did nothing. It never showed any kind of response, reaction, growth, nothing. And I got so fed up with it, I was very immature that I threw it away. It just like was not doing anything. This is not the pet for me. All it, it got sun and got water, and that's all it did. After that, I think we were out sort of in a suburban area with woods behind our house. And I think my second pet, well, actually, I'm sure that we had those little painted turtles at some point when I was a kid. But I'm thinking more like in my teens when I started getting pets it was more about me taking care of them than mom.
Yeah.
I got a box turtle that I had found on our property. And I named her Gertrude. And I had an empty bird cage. And I actually kept her in a bird cage, which is very weird. But yeah, I had her for quite a while. And then after Gertrude, I had a guinea pig named Eleanor Rigby.
Oh, that's awesome.
I wasn't really very good with these pets. I think you learn as you go along, though.
Yeah.
I kept her in an old aquarium, and it probably was not a good idea because glass doesn't leave a lot of air breathing space except for the top,
Yeah.
And I wasn't as diligent as I should be about the upkeep because she would like mess up her area so quickly and it got pretty smelly. And I don't know why I'm going into these details, but it got better over time. I think the next one was probably.
Sorry. I don't know if that's my internet cutting in and out, but it was frozen for me for a second.
Oh,
and it's frozen now. Is that me? Am I back?
Oh, it just frozen. After you said that, I saw your image freeze for like a half a second and then it went back. So
okay.
I think you're okay.
Fingers crossed.
Sorry. So anyway, I'm jumping along. I think the next one was when I moved to New York and had a roommate and we found a cat. And the cat would climb the lace curtains and claw them and jump in the laundry bag and pee all over our dirty laundry. We didn't have that cat too long. And then when I moved in alone, I went to a loft party. I'm not really a cat person. I went to a loft party and it was a wild, crazy, huge party with dancing and lots of music. And the woman that was running the party had kittens. And I'm sort of a wallflower. So I was sitting in one corner and this little kitten climbed up in my lap and curled up and fell asleep. And I thought, this is the cat for me. If a cat can fall asleep in the middle of a crazy, loud, noisy party, then that's the one, So I adopted this cat. I brought it home and I had it for a while. And then it went through puberty and it went completely psychotic. And it was, always pouncing and lunging at me and just like wild, crazy behavior. I thought, I don't know what happened, but this isn't that little cat that was happy to be sleeping and, left alone. My upstairs neighbor who I was friends with fell in love with it, and he said, I'll take it, so he adopted this cat, and I thought, great. But it would attack all his guests when they'd come into his apartment. It would jump and claw their ankles and stuff. And he lived on the 5th floor, and he often had his window over his bed open. And the cat would, lounge on the window ledge and actually literally fell 5 floors 3 different times.
Wow.
And after the 3rd time, he said, okay, this is probably not a good place for the cat to be. And so he gave it to a friend who lived on a farm in the country, and that seemed like it was probably a better fit. So
Yeah.
I'm terrible at these interview things because I make the stories, short stories, longer and longer. Then I went from a cat up to a dog. I'm more of a dog person. And I had a Cairn Terrier that a friend of mine had. He got a pair, one for him and his girlfriend, and then they broke up. And so he had to get rid of one of them. And so I adopted his Cairn Terrier, and I had her for like 20 years.
Wow.
We had a very happy life together, and then she got too old and passed. And then in her final year, actually, I got another dog that was a stray that friends had found. It was a Chihuahua. And so they lived concurrently together in my little apartment for about a year before the first one died. And then I had the Chihuahua for, I think, about 18 years. And that one, my God, it was the strongest bond I've ever had with any kind of pet. And I thought, I had a hard time when the first one passed. I thought, and I didn't even feel like that much of a bond there, but I thought, oh my God, when Pearl dies, I'm going to be a real wreck,
Yeah.
And it really wasn't as bad as I thought. I don't know. You never know how you're going to grieve, We grieve different ways and to different degrees for different people or pets. And I thought I was going to be a mess, and somehow I wasn't. But I do miss her. But and I thought about getting another pet, but I live in a 4th floor walk up, and she was never house trained, and the stairs are difficult for me to negotiate several times a day. And I ended up just sort of putting rubber flooring down and mopping several times a day.
Yeah.
And I think I may be too old to go through that again. So, but, when and if I get my new apartment with an elevator, I might get another pet, and, will be easier for me to walk it. And I've shared way, way too much, but that's my string of pets.
I always had pets we always had animals in the house when we were young. And my mom was a teacher, so she would also have classroom pets. So like we would have we always had dogs in our family. And then in the summers, because school was not in session, then we would also have all these like smaller critters kind of hanging out in the summer that were safe for the classroom. So like, guinea pigs very frequently, sometimes birds. There was a rabbit, and the rabbit was like interesting because the rabbit we got was kind of like, right, like normal size rabbit, but this thing got huge. And I just remember like we couldn't even keep it like in the house. We had to have it in the garage because it had gotten too big. With like a much larger cage. So that was kind of interesting. I just remember that now. I haven't thought about that rabbit in so long. But we did always have dogs. I love cats. I've never had a cat. And then of course parrots. There was a parrot. I love this story. So there was a parrot. It was already a rescue parrot. We didn't know how old she was when my aunt got her. And my aunt, it was like my cousins and then my aunts. And then one time my mom went to visit my aunt, and the bird decided that it was going to go home with my mom. Like the bird was like, I'm going to come home with you. And then I lived back at home with my parents for a while. This is as an adult. And then when I moved in, the bird all of a sudden decided it hated everybody but me. So of course I was like, you're my best friend. and so I was really bonded to that bird. And then I moved again, but I couldn't take the bird with me because of at this point she's probably about 30 years old at this point. It was an African Senegal parrot, and they're a smaller breed, but they do live they can live up to 50 years.
Wow.
But so she's still going strong, and she's back with my mom, but it took a little while for them to kind of like rebond, because they do really only pick one person unless they're kind of handled consistently. But we still don't know, like we don't know what happened before she came to us, except for the time that she was with my other family members. So
I wanted to say I've always been terrified of birds. Yeah. And I think it started, we used to go visit my grandmother in Cincinnati in this apartment building, and she had a pet parakeet named Libby, which was short for Liberace. She was a big Liberace fan. And she had this yellow parakeet, and she would occasionally let it out of its cage and let it fly around the apartment. And when my sister and I were little kids, this thing would terrorize us. It would chase us around the apartment and dive bomb us.
Oh my gosh.
That's probably the start as to why I'm afraid of birds. So because I saw Jane the Seeker, I think it was in here, say, get a bird. And I thought, no, birds are not for me.
They're really fast too. And even when they like you, part of their bonding is they'll nip, and you got to be fast. You have to catch their beak and kind of push back a little bit to get them to stop doing that.
I also wanted to mention, when you said rabbits, I knew 2 people here in New York City that had rabbits in their apartments. And it's very tricky. One of them, his rabbit died because they're always chewing on things like cords, like it chewed on the refrigerator electrical cord and got electrocuted. So you have to really safeguard your space so they can't do stuff like that.
Yeah.
And the second one, I think she fared better. She had like an open pen with mesh wire around a wooden pen with not grass, cedar chips or something in the bottom, like in her living room space. But yeah, I'm not sure rabbits are really the ideal New York City pet. Although I think Amy Sedaris has had them for years in her West Village apartment. And I think she has had to safeguard her apartment because she just lets them wander free around the apartment.
Wow. Yeah.
But before we go to the next question, I want to just double check who is here and say hello to Gerald, Lisa Niedermeyer, Debbie Aquarius Owl, Orchie Dragorji's Tarot, Jane the Seeker, and I think that's it for now. And I had a couple starred comments. Let me see how this works. I love the pet names. Really cool. Okay. I want to unstar that. I want to unstar. Comment. I think I did it. Okay.
Okay.
The other one? Oh, no, I didn't. It's still there.
If I'm not reacting, the internet is cutting in and out, just as an FYI.
Okay.
I don't know why it's doing that.
I had another starred comment and I can't find it now. How do I? Oh, I see. Hide. Is that okay? And I can't find my other starred comment for some reason.
Huh.
Well,
I do see Gerald is asking which card it was. I think he's tracking if I'm not mistaken, but it was the magician.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We'll just go back. Okay. So the card I have, and this is the deck is the Vintage Blonde Old Fellow Tarot. And so I got the 8 of Wands. And I guess my question, maybe not a particularly deep question, but is how are you at multitasking?
It depends. So it's kind of interesting. A lot of times I'm really bad at it, but it depends on what the tasks are. So, like, if I'm doing one thing that's language based, I can't also do a second thing at the same time that's language based, right? Like, so if I'm having a conversation with somebody and somebody's sending me a text, I can't answer the text unless I want to interrupt my conversation, like that kind of thing. But if it's something like um, where I kind of almost think that actual multitasking is a little bit of a myth. What's the thing? Like, one thing I think everybody can do that could be considered multitasking. This is going to be a little gross, a little potty humor here. So you can go to the bathroom and read a little bit at the same time. I think I think you could do that. But it depends. It depends. And then I think it's more like I can switch tasks really quickly if it's stuff that I'm very competent with or have familiarity with. So, and I'm thinking here about like different work experiences. Like, I have worked at a deli counter, and that can be an experience that's insanely busy, and you are toggling between a million things at once. And I used to be able to do that very quickly. But that, of course, was like after, some experience. But like, I think that what happens when you have things like that going on, it's almost like instead of your brain almost sees it all as one task. So I don't even know if that's true multitasking. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm being way too analytical about this question. I think probably a shorter answer is sometimes yes, sometimes no.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I worked for a third of a century. I like to say that at the Strand bookstore, which is like one of the largest used secondhand bookstores in the world, but they don't focus on that so much anymore. And I did the graphics for the place, and people from different departments would come to me with little jobs to do. And I had a hard, there were always deadlines or priorities, and I had a really hard time doing more than one job at the same time or switching priorities. Usually I went with the hierarchy, like the boss or the boss's daughter came first, and then separate departments depending on, what could wait or what needed immediate attention. There's like an event that needs it now, or there's a sale going on a table right now that I got to get a sign made for or something. And I was not very good at that. My ideal, I used to say, would be a job where I had an in basket and an out basket on my desk, and I could deal fully with one thing at a time and just like an assembly line, put stuff through. That would be good for me. But it never worked that way. It was always 3 or 4 people coming at me at once, and then I had to figure out who I had to make excuses to or say, oh, sorry, but so-and-so has priority here, or how important is this? And can you negotiate it with the higher ups to let them know you need it more than their job? And horrible. And everybody knows I'm terrible at multitasking in these web things, because I should be paying attention to the chat and commenting on all of them and welcoming them all in as they arrive, and then paying attention to what you have to share and thinking about what I want to share. It's like, it's just too much. It's overwhelming. But I did want to say, I see people on the streets in New York all the time multitasking. They're walking and looking at their phones. And that's kind of a big pet peeve for me. And it's funny. I feel like either talk on your phone or text on your phone or walk. It's a side walk. It's not, this other thing. So it's I sort of like either walk or move to the side. This is my thing of sidewalk. If I ever need my phone to like look something up or talk to somebody in public, I stop in my tracks and step to the side so people can get by, which may look really weird that I'm, a person standing still and talking on my phone, but that's just kind of the way I feel like that
Yeah.
should be handled, and that's what I do. So,
Well, especially New York City, because like if people are walking, they are moving and they're like zzz, like it's fast. It's not like Boston where people stroll.
and I feel like as a walker, I have the right of way to a texter.
Yeah.
Sometimes what I'll do is I'll see somebody coming right towards me on their phone, and I'm not diving out of their way. They should be watching where they're going. But what I won't do is keep walking into them. I'll just stand stark still and see if they walk into me or if they, maneuver around me at the last minute.
Hmm.
Usually they have enough peripheral vision to know, and a lot of times they'll apologize. But I just feel like, if you're going to do that, and I don't think you should, you need to still be aware of what's going on around you. And so many people crossing the street in traffic with their face in the phone, and near auto accidents and things. It's just, near
Yeah.
misses. Anyway, pull another card, please.
Oh, that's right. It's my turn.
While you're pulling your card, let me just check the chat. This is something I can try to do. Jane loves birds. She's had them all her life. Debbie her mother-in-law had a parrot that loved her son. Yes, Amy Sedaris has rabbits. Oh, we're past that. You asked Gerald asked what card you had. Debbie's sort of multitasking. She's a multitasker queen, listening while she's working. Snacking while watching a movie or TV. I don't know that counts, but maybe if you're cooking while watching TV, but if you just got your hand or your fork in, and I don't know. Gerald can knit and walk at the same time. Oh, but he cannot walk downstairs while knitting.
That is not I would not roll those dice either. I just wouldn't try.
Problem, yeah, with sharp knitting needles, yeah. They say if someone is walking straight at you, if you slow your pace, they will move to avoid you. That says Debbie.
That's interesting.
Okay.
So the card that I pulled is the Lovers, and I think this is interesting because we've got Tweedledum and Tweedledee on here, which I think that's fascinating. So the thing that's coming up, and it is the meaning, is like, when do you know it's time to commit to a new project or course of action?
Oh, that's entirely intuitive with me. I think it's weird. I inherited my dad's genes, and he's kind of like, do it now. You have a job to do it now, get it over with, and then you can enjoy the rest of your day. And my mother was more, I wouldn't say she had been a procrastinator, but she's not so focused on like, right here, right now, get it done.
Yeah.
My dad, when I was in my teens, and it was my thing to mow the lawn Saturdays, and I was a late sleeper, and he would like hassle me to get out of bed and get out and mow the lawn. I don't think he cared as long as it was done before end of day. But but he was an early riser, and so like 7, 8 in the morning, he'd be up and wanting to get me out of bed to mow the lawn, and it's like a lot of times it'd be 3 or 4 in the afternoon before I'd get around to it. So
Oh, wow.
I wasn't good at that. But as I've gotten older, like when I designed my first tarot, I procrastinated for something like a year. And then one Sunday morning, I just woke up and I thought, oh, today's the day I think I can do it or get started. And once I got started, then I couldn't stop. And I thought, if I stop, I'll procrastinate again and I won't finish the deck. So I actually made this 22 card deck in 4 hours, give or take 3 more hours of tweaking to get it online and get it in, make playing cards. But I haven't heard of anybody else that's created a deck that fast before. But I sort of blame or give credit to my dad for the genes that saw that through. It's like, yes, you've got this job to do and do it and get it done today, here and now.
Yeah. Let's see. For me, I know it's time to commit to a task if I can't stop thinking about it, or commit to a project. And like I might take my time and like, let's say like I'll talk about the wire wrapping a little bit, because like every time you get a new idea, sometimes you don't necessarily have all of the skills in the toolbox that you need in order to make it come to life. So like if I need to, I haven't had to learn this in a long time, but like if I needed to learn how to do wire wrap loops, for example, I would go and learn that and practice doing that, and then apply it to the project with the other stuff. So, I mean, but that's just about like planning how you're going to do the project. But I don't procrastinate. I'm like, even if I don't want to do it, I'll just be like, just work on it for 5 minutes and it'll be fine. And then by the end of the day, I actually end up usually keep going. But yeah, if there's an idea that won't leave me alone, or that I actually find myself being a little bit obsessed with it, I'm like, no, you just do something with it. Just go ahead. and to not worry about the results, I think, is sometimes part of the trick of getting stuff done. Because if we're too much of a perfectionist as we're starting a process, then that can be enough discouragement to just stop the whole thing in its tracks. Anyway, that was a little bit of a tangent, but yeah, if it won't leave my brain alone, I'll go there, whatever the thing is.
I hate stuff nagging at me. If I know something needs to be done and I don't do it, I'm still thinking about it anyway in the back of my mind. It's like just nagging at me. And I don't like even that degree of multitasking. I can't rest easy until I don't have to deal with it anymore.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, I used to pay my bills once a month. I had monthly bills. And I'd wait until one particular time of the month, drag up my checkbook, write out the checks, and mail everything. Most of my bills now are online, and I still get paper bills, but a lot of them they're paid online. So now the day the bill comes in the mailbox, I'll get right on my computer and pay it, and then I don't have to think about it anymore.
Yeah.
So it's not something I can, hold on to. And also, a lot of people keep journals and date books and things, and I'm not so good with that. I mean, I do have a little one for like doctor's appointments, but beyond that, and sometimes I'll make a sticky note on my computer screen of, okay, this is the time I'm supposed to meet Regina on Tuesday to do this, and this is when I'm interviewing Jason next. And I know there's calendar on your computer, but I'm not sure how to use it. And it's just like, I don't even want to take the time to learn how to figure it out. It's like, but I need a better method for handling multitasking.
I'm a notebook, pen and paper girl with all that kind of stuff. And I don't know why. I don't know. It sticks in my head more if I write it out. And I've used the calendar, but I never even think to look at it. It's kind of interesting. I don't know that there's too many people who are pen and paper people anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I just wanted to, I see Deanne popped in and wanted to say hello, Blue Crescent Tarot. Let's see this scrolling too much, which is a blessing actually, because I don't want to miss stuff. So anyway, my next card, the Death card. And I, for some reason, the question that popped into my head with this is, when do you cut ties? Or
Oh,
know when to cut ties? Not just with people, but with projects or things that you're working on that you think, oh, enough is enough. You know, I'm not doing this anymore. Or I give up on this. Or do you have a method or a notion as to how you go about cutting ties?
if we're talking about projects, I think like when you know to stop when it's like you reach a point where you're like, okay, there's nothing else that I can do that is going to add from this, and if I mess with it anymore, it might actually take away from this. But you know what? That actually might work as a good analogy for people too, which it's like I don't like to think about it, but like it is a little bit like, are they adding to your life or are they taking more?
Mm.
And that's is very transactional, and it doesn't quite capture like the whole nuance, because there's this whole other emotional difficult stuff to go through, right? Like life isn't quid pro quo. Sometimes somebody goes through a hard thing and you give them as much as you can for the hard thing to get them through it, and they can never really give that back in the same way, because your hard thing is not going to be the same hard thing, right? But yeah, if it's taking more than it's adding, I have to kind of assess things. I try not to have it where it's like big explosive like awfulness that creates cutting ties. But I mean, of course those moments have happened for everybody at some point.
Yeah, I think I have to echo what you just said. It's like, if it doesn't serve you any longer, that sounds awful though when it comes to people, you know.
But it's
They don't
kind
serve
of
you
true.
anymore, get them out of your life. That's not, I mean, that sounds extreme. I don't mean it literally quite that way.
Right.
I too don't like altercations, and I tend to more distance myself slowly from people. And people do that in my life too, to me too. It's sort of like, I guess you'd say, ghosting. But I don't generally have like violent fights with people that I part with. They just sort of like drift away. You know, we have friendships, and then you sort of know they're over because you're in touch less and less, and you're interacting less. And at this point, we haven't talked in a year or more. It's like, let's just let it keep drifting. You know, it's run its course.
Yeah.
There are times when I have to deal with something like, okay, do I continue down this pathway, or what do I do? Or I have to make a choice between two things. And I pretty much go to my cards these days.
Yeah.
They don't always make the decision for me, but somehow they take me out of myself to reflect on the decision from a sort of a distanced viewpoint and different perspective. And I find that a tarot is really good for that. Because sometimes you're too close to the situation, but if you can step out of your body and be a bystander and let the cards be you for a minute, telling you or asking you things about the situation, you think, oh, I forgot about that, or I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, I need to think about it. I think that works really well. But I wanted to ask you a follow-up question with that, because of the what they call the Grim Reaper. A question about reaping rewards. You know, like when you've invested time in a project or something, is there a process or something you go through that you, in terms of finalizing things, you know, now it's done, it's complete, I can celebrate it, or it's complete and I don't need to celebrate it, I'll just put it away? I don't know, it's kind of a weird question to ask. I don't know if you know what I mean.
I do, but it's so funny because again, it all comes to context, right? Like, and it depends on the like if we think about creative projects, it depends on the creative projects. With this is funny. Sometimes, okay, so there's many different ways with wirecrafting. Sometimes with wirecrafting, it's like, okay, now you have to put it down and put it aside because you've been wire weaving so long that your hands hurt and you do not have a choice if you want your hands to keep working, right? So that's the set it aside, maybe do something later.
Now, with the wirecrafting, do you just make stuff to sell, or do you get commissions that people ask you or hire you to make stuff for them?
I mostly just make stuff to sell, but I mean, I have had people ask me to do certain things and I've done them. But it's not my main thing.
So when you get a commission, that would play into this question. Do you get right on that and put your fun stuff aside and work on the commission, or do you just kind of like I'll do them all, whatever I feel like at the moment? Or how do you do
I
it?
do. If I get a commission, I'll work on that first. Like I will prioritize it. And like if it's something that it's something if it's something I'm not enthusiastic about, I'll do that. I'll go back to like the other method that I have sometimes, which is like just work on this for X amount of time. And if you are still like resistant, put it aside and work on the thing that you want to be working on. But a lot of times that falls away and you just get excited and interested about like, oh, let's do this creative problem solve here, or look at this really cool shape that you just made here and keep going, that kind of thing.
Okay, I want to cut to the chat for a minute and see. It's Debbie, I cut my brother-in-law out of my life. They say not to hold grudges. I say don't let people get away with the same shitty behavior forever.
Yeah.
And hello to Farida Ali, new from the UK. Deanne, right, Debbie, it all just depends. People who say they might have a frame of mind perspective, that's why way milder than the issues you have to deal with. Oh, I had a feeling Farida, who's new here, wanted to ask a question. And we're not doing meetings here. Apologies. We're doing an interview. And now if you have comments, your own perspective on the questions we're bringing up in the interview, please feel free to add them into the chat. But otherwise, we're not really doing reading questions today.
But hello, Farida. I do recognize you from some of the pop-up lives on my channel.
And
Thank you for stopping by.
I'm not really a reader channel, although I have done it a couple of times. At some point, I might. I personally don't find them that entertaining for anybody other than the person asking the question, but they can be, it's just not something I tend to do too much. So you have another card?
Wait, who pulled the left? Was that? Oh yeah, I do. It was you, and it was the death card. How could I forget? Major Arcana too.
Well, especially he's in blue. I don't think I've seen a blue death.
It's an interesting choice.
I love the cheery little face, the head's on the ground.
I know. They're like, oh.
Hand waving like, don't forget me, I'm here.
Oh my gosh. They're like, yay, it's fun to be disembodied. Oh, the page of flamingos. So what is
birds?
So, and that's the page of swords. That's right. Oh my gosh, I forgot about the bird thing. What is something that makes you go into research mode? Like where you want to research something either before you do it or to look into something?
Oh, for me, it's weird. I'm so thrilled that we have resources that we do in this day and age, because now, I mean, I'll wake up in the middle of the night with some thought in my head I want to know about or look up, and I'll just sit up in bed, pop my legs over the side, and I'm on my computer Googling,
Yeah.
And because then, I mean, that's so much better to get an answer than go back to bed than lie, tossing and turning, thinking it, churning it over in your mind. Well, I can't multitask that either. I can't get to sleep and be thinking about this at the same time. So yeah, I love that we have computers at our fingertips that we can do searches for things that we're curious about or obsessing about or what we want to know. I mean, all I had when I was a kid was the book of knowledge or the encyclopedias on the shelves. And
Yeah.
you really had to work in those days to get an answer for the most part. A dictionary, not so much, but encyclopedia, boy, you couldn't always find the specific element you were looking for right away. You'd have to read through a lengthy essay or something to get at it.
Yeah. I kind of miss encyclopedias though. I know they took up so much space, but I do kind of miss them. So for me in research, I don't know, like anything that just like piques my interest. I will go down a rabbit hole, but like not always. Like sometimes, like do you remember having conversations where you didn't really know an answer, but you'd kind of talk to people and have a go at it, like just kind of like try and figure it out. Like there's less and less of those kinds of conversations. My brother and I will do it sometimes, like purposely not Google or pick up the phone and just be like, and then of course, if you still don't know and you can't figure it out between the two of you, then you like might speculate and make up some crazy thing that's like fun to play with as an idea or a thought experiment. I don't know.
Well, you got me thinking there about my family. My mom and dad are gone, and my sister's still around. I have one sibling, and we don't talk as often as we should or could. But lately, I've been doing a lot of creative writing, and some of it involves family. I'm trying to remember things or things I thought I knew about their lives but didn't, or questions never asked. Like when you're in the moment, it's so matter of fact. You never think to ask a sibling or a parent something about their history, when they were in their teens or how they dealt with this or that. And now they're gone. I can't do that, and I really regret it. And this is a message for me to push out there to all the people in the chat or anybody watching this. Don't wait. If you want to know something, ask it now. Don't delay, because once that possibility is gone, all you can do is the closest you can get is, find a medium or channel it to try and get an answer. But yeah, as I'm writing these days, there's so many times when I think, gee, what did mom think about this? Or what would she have thought? And I can't call her on the phone. I'll call my sister and say, you lived there with her alone longer than I did because I moved out earlier. Did you guys ever have a discussion about such and such? Or do you remember where she worked during this part of her life? Or, there were so many different things, little details.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, my parents both met at art school, but I don't remember them ever talking about interest in art when they were before that, or or favorite artist or any. I don't think my dad knew Picasso from Van Gogh, really.
Yeah.
And his focus in art school was on calligraphy. So it was a very practical kind of art, but I don't know. And he went to art school on the GI Bill. It just kind of makes me wonder where is your mind at? Where is your passion? What drove you to go to art school when there's nothing reflected in your life before that would hint up to an interest in art? So well, that went off on a tangent, but I guess it's what was the question? What were we talking about? I forgot.
We were talking about, was it research?
Research.
And then
Right.
And then it did go somewhere else.
Yeah. Well, that's research too, but it's like family research, genealogy, and those kind of things,
Yeah.
And even those are easier to find these days with these apps and things online where you can search your family tree and all that stuff. But I'm really thrilled that you could also get a lot of bad information online, but I'm thrilled that we have the tools at our fingertips to go searching and get an answer right away.
Yeah, it is nice.
And when you said about, having discussions or debates or whatever, it's like you might have an argument about, no, it was this way, or, historically, da 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 da. And so, well, we'll settle that. I'm going to Google right now. And it's like my writing group will have debates over that's not the proper use of that word, or that's not what that means, or no, that's not the right spelling. And so I go on and I search right away and just settle the argument,
Yeah. I have to ask, in your writing group, do people get in an uproar about the Oxford comma? Does that conversation ever come up?
I don't even know what that is.
Okay. That's my answer. Now that I've said that, watch, it'll pop up and people.
Well, now I want to know, what's the Oxford comma?
I don't even know if I understand the Oxford comma. I think the Oxford. Okay. You know what? Gerald should know because he's the librarian. I know what it is, but I don't know how to explain it well, which is like weird for me. But
Does it have to do with when or when not to use a comma, or is it some other kind of thing?
I think it's the one where you you bracket the commas, like not with the bracket, but like
With commas.
right. So if it's like a something and something, like putting the comma, I think it's about putting the comma before the like the and or something like that. And like there's some people that think you shouldn't do that, and then there's other people that do. You must use the Oxford comma, says Gerald in the chat. Can you explain it? I think I did it bad. I think I did it wrong.
Does Gerald, do you know about the Oxford comma? We might pull you in live to tell us about it better than chat if you do.
Oh, I did get it right. Okay. It is. It's using a comma before the and in a series.
Okay.
And then Debbie says, Robin, tonight at 2:30 a.m., Googling Oxford commas.
Oh, right. I'm not real good with punctuation. I do it in my head like I sound it out, like I'm reading.
Yeah.
Wherever I feel like I would pause in reading out loud, I slap a comma in there. And I don't know if it's supposed to go there or not, but it sounds like, for me, that's a signal or a symbol to pause, take a breath.
Yeah. You know what's interesting though? The way that you say that you use the comma, like for pausing and taking a breath.
Yeah.
If you're reading broadcast copy, like for a radio commercial, that's what it signifies to somebody who's doing broadcast copy. It is for a pause, but it's different for literature, which is fascinating.
I also don't know the difference between when to use a comma, when to use a semicolon or a colon or a dash. I don't even know if dash is the right word. But sometimes when it's like you need space and you want to kind of make a point, you'll do the long dash. So they have what they call M dashes and N dashes. One's shorter and one's longer. And yeah, I don't really know how to do those. I think visually, I just think, what will make people look at this and think, I need to pause here, or I need to like give it a little moment of silence before I add in that extra bit,
Yeah, I hear you. Some of this stuff is like, I don't know. And I feel bad when I don't know how to make an umlaut on a keyboard anymore. Like I used to know some of that stuff. That's all gone.
Yeah. I have seniors writing groups, and it's more like creative writing, and we don't really have anybody in the group that's knowledgeable enough to correct all the stuff. I mean, we try to improve our writing and communication, but it's more like a social activity, a social group where we be creative in writing and then share our.
Am I still here?
Pieces with, can you hear me?
Now I can, yes.
Okay, yeah, you're still there. Yeah. So We're
I think it's lucky you don't have like a person who's super in an uproar about grammar in a writing group, though.
Well, we do have one woman who's an older woman who was a teacher, but she was a teacher of literature. So I'm not really sure if she's well versed or well trained in grammar and punctuation, but she's the one that calls us all out all the time, you know. So yeah. Anyway, that's a whole other topic there. Just double check. Shannon says slam a comma or a period. Oxford comma is the comma after Robin and before and. Not sure what that. If you, it's using a comma before the and in a series. Regina, comma Robin, comma and Gerald are tarot readers. So if it's the comma after Robin, oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I
wonder
think we're still on mine, aren't we? We're still on the page of flamingos.
Oh,
because
yes.
Gerald's asking what was the card.
Court cases have been won and lost because of the Oxford comma, Gerald says. It's fascinating, really.
Yeah.
What was my card? Well, the last one was the death card, and then she had this one. I forget how the card related to the question, and I even forget what the question was.
We started talking about research, and then it went into like two or three different. Yeah.
Wait, was it the Lovers card?
No, that was a little bit further back. We talked about how do you know when you're going to commit to a project. Why do I remember this stuff?
What was this last card?
This last one was the page of flamingos or the page of swords, if you are a Rider-Waite.
Oh, okay. So page of swords as relates to research.
Yes.
Okay. I get that. The page is beginning a process of communication. So like, and he's wielding a flamingo. So like digging in, getting into, researching, discovering. That makes sense to me. We're here about teaching cards as well, folks. Oh, I guess it's my turn, and this is a tough one for me. The Queen of Coins.
Oh.
Well, for me, she's sort of grasping material things. And so if I translate that into a question, I almost want to say, like, are you a hoarder or a collector? But I think most people in the tarot community are some degree of both those things.
Yeah.
But maybe the question is more like, what is your relationship with material goods, whether it be a collection or how do you feel about them? Like, do they make you feel more secure to have objects around you, or
it's kind of interesting. It's for me, when it comes to like material objects, it's like if it's part of an interest that I'm actively engaged in, I can amass quite a bit of things without necessarily intentionally like collecting. What I get more excited about are like little, like they might be tiny, tiny objects that have like a sentimental or like symbolic significance. It's personal to me.
Mm-hmm.
But I also just love making stuff. Like I just love making stuff. So if there's anything that I've collected more of at all, it's things made out of wire because I cannot stop. I just keep doing it. But I definitely have a tarot deck collection. You know what? If there's any kind of collection that does bring me comfort, it is like just seeing books around makes me happy. Being able to crack open a book, like that feeling, hardcover books, especially when you open that and you feel that spine, like it's a subtle thing, but it's tactile. Yeah, I don't know. I guess they do bring me comfort, but it's not. What's the word I'm looking for? It's not about like, people, there will be people who will be like, well, I have to collect this brand of this thing. Like I've never been a person who's been into that kind of stuff.
I'm going to respond in two ways to this. One with shopping and the others with dieting. Um, I find I do find comfort in things around me, little things. And oh my goodness, I find I don't go out too often since I retired because for some weird reason, every time I set foot out of the house, I feel compelled to buy something. It's really hard for me to just go out and enjoy the air, the weather, and trees and nature. Even if it's only like a coffee, or if I pop in a stationery store or something and buy a pen or a greeting card or some little thing, it doesn't have to be, like diamonds from Tiffany's or something drastic. But somehow I'm in this mode of always having to shop somehow. And so I don't know what it is. It's almost like a souvenir of my going outdoors. And so, when I retired and had less money, I thought, okay, don't go out because you're going to buy something and you don't have the money and you don't have room in your apartment to accumulate more stuff. So just don't even be tempted. Don't go out the door. So it's really hard. My doctor will say, well, you need to go out and exercise. But I almost feel like if I'm going to, jog or even walk around the park, on the way home, I'm probably going to stop for a donut or a coffee or something before I go back home, which almost defeats the purpose of the exercise. So I don't know. The other thing, though, is with dieting, I found in the past that if I don't have something that I crave in the house, I get obsessive and then I, run out and buy something. I overbuy and overeat when I get home.
Yeah.
I'm trying to diet. I actually oddly have had more success if I have that little container of candy or a box of cookies that I can see high on the shelf
Huh.
and that it's there. And then I can look at it and think, do I really want that? Nah, it didn't go in anywhere. If I really
Right.
want it or need it, it's there. I can get it. But if it's not there, I'm thinking somehow I'm missing out. And it's like, oh boy, I really want that now.
Yeah.
If it's there, I'm thinking, no, it's not going anywhere. I can hold out another 5 minutes or another hour or till tomorrow or maybe next week. I don't know why that works for me psychologically, but it
I
seems.
think that's awesome because I'm a person who cannot have the stuff around because it's just gone. Like,
Well, I didn't do well. My sister sent me a care package at Christmas filled with snacks and treats and sweets. And I thought my reaction was, oh my God, I got to consume these, before they go bad. Not like it was anything that was going to go bad. But I'd have been happier if it had just been one treat, instead of many, many in a big box. I looked at it and thought, this will last me for months.
mhm.
And it didn't, because somehow in the back of my mind, I thought, well, it was a Christmas present. You can't have stuff left over at Valentine's Day. You've got to consume this stuff.
Because you have to be ready for more chocolate at Valentine's Day.
Yeah. I don't know whether we want to go to another question or round it up. Why hasn't my Oh, I know why, because we didn't start till like 12:34 or thereabouts. So
Yeah.
within a minute or two, my little alarm will be going off. Do we want to do one more question, or do you think we've had enough for the day?
Let's do one more round.
Okay,
Is it
it's
me on
your turn.
the it's
Yeah.
my turn. Oh my gosh, what did I just do to myself?
When we do these little things, it's amazing to me how fast. There we go.
There it is.
It's how fast the hour goes by, and it feels like we haven't covered very much ground. We do, 3 or 4 cards, but that's what these are for, prompts for a
Yeah.
dialogue or conversation. So now I feel like we didn't finish this with session 2. We need to do more of these. So
We'll have to do it again.
yeah. So what's your card?
Oh, this is interesting. So I have the King of Oysters, which is the King of Pentacles. So I find that really interesting because you just did the Queen of Pentacles.
Right.
When do you feel like you have to plan for things? Or are you a person who prefers to plan? Or do you like more spontaneity?
Oh no, I'm not good with spontaneity at all. I'd like to be better. In fact, I got a little tattoo as it's sort of a charm on my body. You won't be able to see it, but maybe I can move a little closer. I went through this series of getting tattoos to mark elements of my life, and I got this one. No, you can't see it, but it's this little wild woman rushing madly ahead, and her hair is like kind of trailing out behind her, like she's leaning into the future, kind of running, and wild. She's like this little wild woman. And when I got that, if I had the book handy, I could show you closer where the image came from. But anyway, I got it because I thought, I'm too predictable. I make plans out, even when I'm meeting with friends, I want to make sure I'm going somewhere comfortable, that, it's a plan that I feel is going to work best for everybody. And I'm horrible at spontaneity. In fact, when I go, I've thought about, it would be really nice to have a partner or meet somebody, a romantic interest or something. And I'll go to an event like a men's knitting group or something like that, thinking, oh, maybe it'll happen there. I'll meet somebody there. But I'm so focused on what the purpose of the group is that I can't even be spontaneous to allow for the possibility of chatting somebody up, or flirting with someone or something. It's just really weird. It's like, so anyway, I got this as a charm to say, okay, if you put this charm on here, it'll be a reminder to try to be more spontaneous, to like, just run with the wind, go do things that, might spark your interest. And it didn't work. It's just not in my nature, I guess, to do that. I have to plan to be spontaneous. It's horrible.
Oh my gosh. So I don't know. Like I would say I'm probably a mix of different things. Like, but I do have spurts of spontaneity, I think. Or I'll have to have like a kind of the way that I think about the way my spontaneity operates is like, okay, so I have to kind of know what the day is, maybe, or that I have free time to be spontaneous or just be random. Or like there's got to be like some kind of structure or framework. And then within that, I can be like, what do they call it in Dungeons and Dragons? Chaotic neutral or chaotic good, whatever, something like that. But yeah, but there does have to be like a little bit of planning and a little bit of randomness. I kind of mix them together, I think.
There have been days when I've gone out to my little park around the corner and think, okay, let's just go out and sit on a park bench and see what happens. And those are the days when nothing comes up to be spontaneous about. It's like, today I'm opening myself to all possibilities. And I sit there and I look around and nothing comes my way to be spontaneous about. So
it's so funny. Yeah. I don't know. But yeah, it's just like a mix. There's some stuff that I'm like, we've got to play. Like if I'm traveling, I feel like I need to have things a little more planned out. And I mean like a distance. I'm not talking about like the next town over. Yeah.
Maruta's here and she says, I prefer making plans too, but once in a while I'll get a wild hair. Yeah.
But yeah.
I guess, well, we passed the alarm bell. It's 1:40 now, so we're a few minutes past an hour, and I guess we should say our farewells. But thank
Yeah.
everybody for attending and joining in, and more of these to come, I think, provided Regina doesn't mind me taking her thing and running with it. So we'll have more conversations with Regina and more with other people. I think it's going to be a new thing on my channel and a way to get to know more people from the tarot community. I used to schedule once a month lives and was never really comfortable doing them solo. And then I had guests, but then sometimes the scheduling didn't work out either. Or it's like the day would come and I think, oh, damn, I have to do a live today. And I'm so not in the mood,
Yeah.
you know? So now I just kind of do them whenever I feel passionate about doing something. And I'm hoping that this will add videos to my channel more frequently because there are tons of people out there to get to know. And sometimes tarot videos get a little bit redundant, even in walkthroughs, but which is mostly what I do. But anyway, I'm scatterbrained now. All right, so I'm going to say goodbye. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Regina. And we'll see you all sometime in the future.
In the future.
I almost clicked the leave studio button. I've done that before without ending the broadcast.
Oh, no.
Leaving my co-conspirator dangling in the void there. See if I can do this right this time. Bye, everybody.